What up, nerds? And welcome back to Lily's Ranger Talk. We're back, bitches! I came on a little strong, but I miss you guys. I am so sorry that I've been inactive on my socials a lot. There really isn't a reason. Kind, kind of, I've been busy adulting and also not adulting. Applying to jobs, doing interviews, getting rejected from jobs. Well, okay, I didn't get rejected from one job, but I did have to turn it down. What else have I been doing? Um, I have a new nephew in my life. He was born in April, just 4 days before my birthday. I'm 23 now. Woohoo! And I also got back into Monster High. Which I've always loved Monster High. It's similar to what my love for Power Rangers. It started when I was young and I grew up with the franchise. More Monster High than Power Rangers because, Monster High was around while I was. I mean, they were both around while I was a childhood, but, Monster High grew as I was growing, If that makes sense. Not that Power Rangers wasn't growing. Well, I guess that's debatable. Anyways, um, so today we are going to be continuing with our color ranking series. I don't know how many more episodes we're going to do, if I'm being honest. And originally I was going to go straight to like the Red Rangers up to the Six Rangers, but we actually have two main colors left, which is white and black, and today we are doing black. I was going to combine these, but I knew I was probably going to do a somewhat long intro, which I am. So, yeah, we're going to be doing the Super Sentai Black Rangers today. And then next episode will be the White Rangers. And, okay, should I do gold and silver? Because those are like the last two colors that I've ranked. But not only have those, that has not changed within the last 2 years. Because we haven't had a gold and silver ranger since in the newer season. Since, like, what, Dome Brothers? And I haven't watched any new seasons that have a silver or a gold ranger. Um, so I do not know if I should rank them or not because it would be a lot of the six rangers and then like two characters who I wouldn't rank otherwise. But anyways, I don't know if that made any sense. Let's just move on to the honorable mentions. Also, I'm sorry if you hear a lot of like chirping and like background noises. My window's open. So, yeah, let's move on. So, our only honorable mention for today is from Gozuger, the latest season, and it's Sumino. So, I am a bit behind on Gozuger, and by a bit, I mean literally just one episode. So, literally, it's not that big of a deal. But I have been, you know, I haven't been taking as much notes as I have in previous seasons, and I think it's just because I want to savor like the moments and stuff. So I write down what's important, and I have no idea why, but Sumina's actually the character I have the most notes on. Um, yeah, but pretty much what I like is how cool and collective she is. Usually, in both cases, but she does get like a little flustered at some points. Her story is very interesting. How she started out working for the prime minister. Can't remember his name. I like, and another thing I like about her story is like why she became a detective, and you know, it's because of her little sister and all of that, and that's cute. Um, I love her powers that she has telepathy powers. I think that's very very cool. I like all the Ghost Teacher's powers, but I think Sumina's is the most interesting because I guess I didn't know like what kind of power they could give a unicorn. Like I could guess everyone else's, like, you know, Gozu Wolf has a good nose. Gozu Leon has a good sense of hearing. Um, Triano, super strength. What's Gozu Eagles? I have no idea what his power is. Other than being young, but I don't think that's like a primary like eagle power. I just I just can't recall what his power is. Anyways, and like I said, couldn't think of like a good power for. I was worried they were gonna go the route of like, oh, she can heal people, because that's like the first power I think of when I think of a unicorn. Um, but yeah, no, like the power of telepathy. I think it's really, really cool. I think she has to touch people. Yeah, she has to touch someone for them to work. And it doesn't work on people who have rings. Okay, so that's interesting. Um but yeah, I also really love her suit. What I like about her suit in particular is she doesn't have a full-on skirt like most female Super Sentais, do. What I like about it is that they're kind of like two panels. That's the best way I can describe it. It's more functional in my opinion, and this is from someone who loves skirts on the female Super Sentais, but doesn't necessarily need them. Like, I wasn't upset when, Boominger didn't do it, or when King Oger didn't do it. But I like how we get that little panel. I think they're cool. That's a lot of, like, me talking about an honorable mention, but let's move on to the actual list. As always, please keep in mind that for a majority of these people, I have not written notes for the series, so I'm going off of memory. If I need to refresh that badly, I will. I did it for the Six Rangers. But anyways, at number 8, I forgot to mention there's 8, but at number 8, from Ghost Sager, we have Agri. I do feel bad that, like, Ghost Sagers is always low unless you're Airy on most of these lists, and Gosei Knight. Gosei Knight was pretty high. Um, and it's just because, Ghost Sagers, good season. Really good season. But unfortunately, and granted, could also be because it's been a while since, like, I've watched the season. It's been, what, 3 years now? Yeah, 3 years, because started it, I think, in March of 2022. Or no, because I was home for Okay, I'm overthinking stuff. Sorry. Um, but yeah, I feel like with Ghost Sagers, it's just most of the characters are unfortunately just a little bit forgettable, and that is especially the case with Hyde and Agri. Like, off the top of my head, the only thing that I can recall from Agri is that he is Monet's sibling. I was gonna say sister. And then I switched to sibling. Yeah, but he's Monet's brother. I think he's the older one. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure. Um, he's always like in competitiveness with his sister. I remember in the finale they were like racing. I don't remember if he was the one who always wins or if it was Monet. I think it was Monet, but I could be wrong. And another instance, which I do remember and I love, was this one focus episode he did have where he was like training for a race. I think it was a race with a monster, if I'm not mistaken. And Gosei Knight, in his like lion form, decides to help him train, and he almost just runs over Agri, and I think it's really, really funny. I believe he's also a bit of a hothead, if I'm also not mistaken. Not as much as his sister, but it is there. But yeah, overall, Agri is just very, very forgettable. At number 7, from King Oger, is Kaguragi. So going into King Oger, I didn't know what to expect from a king of a kingdom where tofu, I feel like it's very food, well, it is. It's food slash agriculture centered. If I'm not mistaken, that's where most of the kingdoms get their food from. And I don't know. I guess I was expecting a more laid back personality from Kaguragi in terms of like I guess like what I'm thinking of is like the Yellow Ranger archetype or like male Yellow Ranger archetypes in the very beginning of Super Sentai, where they're food oriented and like just are constantly shoving their holes. But and I think he is a little laid back, but not as laid back as you think. One of the videos I remember seeing about King Ogers was particularly Kaguragi was known as lying bastard endearingly. And we know why. His sister is held captive. Well, no, she wasn't held captive. She chose to be there, I think. If I'm not mistaken. But like he had some sort of loyalty to Hercules, and it took him a while to even join the King Ogres. And even when he did, like, you never knew what side he was going to be on. He was a very interesting character. And also, if I'm not mistaken, and also Rita. I know Rita was also like this. I don't think either of them got the throne because their parents were, the, were the previous king. And I know why it was like that for Rita. It was kind of weird that it was like that for Kaguragi. But I thought that storyline was very interesting. What else do I like about Kaguragi? I like his outfit. I think he's very cool, and like it's interesting how, because he's the oldest of the kings of, I don't know if that's canon in the series or not. I know it's canon in real life. His actor is, I don't think like that much older than, I don't even know how old they all are. I know Erica was born in 2000, and Erica's the only actor that I can remember, Himino's actor. And then Gira's actor I know was in 98. Rita's actor was 2001. I can't remember Yamato. But yeah, but I knew he was the oldest. Like he was already in his 30s, I think, when King Oger was going on. But anyways, it shows. It does show, but it also doesn't show. Like I feel like the younger kings are a little more mature, and it's interesting to think about. I'm just rambling on at this point. But yeah, I like the character progression we got throughout King Oger. He did eventually join the team. I can't recall if he knew about Hercules' plan all along. Like he knew that he was always with them and not against them. Like I can't recall if he knew that. I don't think he did. But yeah, there is one thing I don't like about Kaguragi though, and it honestly has nothing to do with him himself. I don't like his sister. I don't know. I do not like Suzume. I could not stand her. I thought she was annoying. But even like when, I don't know if it's because I just didn't like Hercules at the time because he was evil and stuff. But I even when like I learned, oh, Hercules is on our side and it's always been on our side, I still just could not stand Suzume. That being said, was she in the King Oger vs. Dumb Brothers special? I don't remember. But, anyways, yeah, that's it for Kaguragi. Overall, great character, and the only reason why he's as low as he is just because there are other characters who I thought were slightly better. At number 6, from Dome Brother, is Tsubasa. 44 episodes! How the hell does it take 44 episodes for these dipshits to realize that Tsubasa is Inu brother? Thank you for coming to my tech talk. You saw that rant coming. I just had to get it out of the way because, as you guys know, that is my number one complaint about Dome Brothers. But anyways, I do really like Tsubasa. I thought he was such an interesting character, and I loved his backstory. And I always felt bad for him because he was so in love with Natsumi, and when she disappeared to the Judah Forest, am I recalling that correctly? Yes. I believe it's Judah Forest. When that happened, that really devastated him. And then on top of that, he got accused of being like responsible for her disappearance and had to run away from the authorities. The authorities. The authorities. I can't talk. But it's so interesting to see his journey to getting Natsumi back, especially when he realized that Mio was Natsumi, and then realizing that they fell out of love, which I had a feeling was going to happen, and I didn't want it to happen, but at the same time, I wanted it to happen. So it's such a complicated thing. I do ship Sanoni and Tsubasa. I think they're a really cute couple, and I think they're really sweet. But yeah, it was so like not cool to like see that his journey. I think his storyline was one of the more interesting ones from that came out of Dumb Brother. What else do I want to say? I didn't necessarily like though how he pretty much was always now forced to be on the run with Sanoni. I don't even remember like what charges he was on. Is it just evading the police? Because he was cleared, I thought, for the disappearance of Natsumi. And considering the fact that Natsumi is back, like, I don't know, man. Another funny moment I really like is when he got turned into an actual dog, and then at the end of the episode, he turned back into a human, and he was still eating the dog food, and the girl was just confused, but she was just like, I'm gonna just keep petting you anyways, and he just kept eating the dog food. It was so funny. That was such a funny moment. But yeah, he was in the top 5, and then I watched, well, you'll see why he's not in the top 5 anymore. But, yeah, 44 episodes. Why did it take that long? 1 month after I recorded the first half, I'm finally recording the second half. God, my ADHD is so bad. Anyways, at number 5 from Kyuranger, we have Champ. So I was gonna do the Is it Kyuranger Bias game show quip that I've been doing, but I kind of can't think of a creative quip to do right now, so instead, I'm just gonna say Champ's catchphrase. Ich, ni, san, moo! I love that. That's a STEM phrase. And when I'm learning Japanese, um, when I do the matching with the kanji, specifically when I was learning like 1, 2, 3, um, every time I would finish matching, I would do it in order, and every time I would do san, I would just go moo right after. So thank you, Kyuranger. I may or may have not mentioned this before, but when it comes to the non-human rangers in Kyurangers, they either have really great stories or they are forgotten. And I think Champ is the former. He has a really good story arc. He has a lot of backstory and character development. And it's so interesting to see. Especially when he turns evil because of, like, the doctor turns evil. That was really sad when I can't recall if his career was always evil or if he just became evil. But that was really, really sad. And I love his partnership with Stinger. Since I'm not going to be able to talk about Stinger because I'm not making an Orange Ranger list, because really, I've said this before. I love all the Orange Rangers equally, and then there's like Bud, or I think that's his name, Bud, from Zoo Oger, where I don't know, there's not that much there for him. But anyways, I love the scene where Stinger things to help, you know, turn Champ back into good. I can't remember which episode. I always forget which episode number it is. And whenever I go back, I'm like, which episode is it? I think it's somewhere in like the 30s. Like, I think the episode right after it's the baseball episode. Um, so, yeah. Again, just a really good character. I wish all the other, like, non humans got better episodes. That's not necessarily the fault of Champ or anyone, except for, having just so many Rangers. But, anyways, now the question is it Kyuranger bias? And I was thinking about this while I was in the bathroom, which is where I do all my thinking. I don't think right now it's Kyuranger bias. I think it's obviously these are my opinions. This isn't like a definitive list of like, oh, this is the best Black Ranger ever. But I do try to make sure that my bias towards Kyuranger doesn't show, obviously, in all of these lists. And truth be told, again, I think right now it's fine because I do like Champ more than I like Tsubasa, but I'm sure people can argue that Tsubasa is better than Champ. And I think it ultimately will depend on where I put Sumino in the list at the end of Gozuger, because I don't rank, and I've talked about this before, I don't rank characters until I finish the series, just so it's more fair, because I don't want to say, oh, I like this character at the beginning, but then they turn out awful at the end. But yeah. So right now, I don't think it's Kyuranger bias, because everyone who's ranked above Champ, I do think are better than him. And it ultimately just depends on where I put any future Black Rangers, because I still haven't watched any new Super Sentai seasons. I know I want to watch Abba Ranger at some point, so where I put Abba Black, if it's below, it might be Kyuranger bias. Who knows? Um, this is I'm going on a whole tangent saying when the main point is, I don't know. I don't think it is. Let's move on. At number 4, from Boom Boonger, we have Joe. Yay, we're finally going to talk about Joe. So, when it comes to Joe, he is in the list of characters who I really want to give a hug to, which I have talked about before, I think in my Yellow Ranger video, because Raita was one of the characters I also wanted to give a hug to, and he kind of started that Raita, but, I mean, Joe too, because I've watched Boom Ranger and Jetman at the same time, so I love Joe. I'm just pulling up my notes real quick on Joe. One of the things I talked about in my full review that is on Instagram, Lilies_Ranger_World, if you want to check it out, under the tab SS Review 2, I believe, is where it will be. I talked about how Joe is the most loyal to Taya, which, I mean, that does not surprise me. He's the only one who hasn't, well, him and Mira, but you can argue, I think people can argue about Mira, but Joe was, like, the only one who was, like, 100% loyal to him all the time. My favorite episode was episode, 15, I believe is when, yeah, it was episode 15 with the dinosaur, monster. Oh my goodness. I love those kinds of episodes where, like, the Rangers are helping a nice villain or monster of the week. I really love those episodes in both Power Rangers and Super Sentai. But Dane, I will admit, Power Rangers does it slightly better, And I mean, I don't think they do it as often as Super Sentai does it. At least from the only two episodes I can think of, Trip Takes a Stand, obviously, and that one episode in Mystic Force. Those are the only two that I can think of off the top of my head. But anyways, they only do it better though because they do happy endings, which they did not do for episode 15, which I cried. And oh my god, he's so Joe has is just so adorable. He's a cop, but he's a good cop. I mean, at the end of the day, he just wants to protect people. And whether he's a Boominger or not, he does his job. And that is so cute. I think most of my notes are like, yeah, I call him my boy because he's my boy. So I'm just going off on how great Joe is, but I have talked about that when it comes to characters, I'm doing a silly little ranking of characters from each team and who I like the best, and it's between him and Gamba for number one, and I still haven't decided. And Boominger's been over for what, 4 months now? So that goes to show how great both of them are. Um, okay, I think there was an episode I do want to talk about because my last note is I think this is an episode similar to the Shinkenger one with the negative monster or like exposing secrets, something along that line, because he was the only one I think who did not care about like, and I could be wrong. This is the only note I have. It says my boy didn't even care that he got a negative 10 on the test once. Nothing can affect my boy. He is a strong character. He's a great character. Long live Joe. I love him. I cannot wait to see him in the King Oger versus Boominger movie. I have not seen it yet. I don't even know if it's like if the subs are out for that yet. Because the site I usually use has not been uploading since April. Fun. Um, but yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the top three. In the top three, at number 3 from Kaku Ranger, we have Jiraiya. So, as we all know, well, maybe you don't know, I will say it anyways. Jiraiya is the American cowboy, the American ninja, and I think he is the first male Super Sentai actor, because I know in Battle Fever we had Diane Martin. And I believe Jiraiya is the first male American Super Sentai actor, and I love. I am so glad that Jiraiya exists. I think originally Kane was actually going for Sasuke, and it would be very interesting to see him as Sasuke, but obviously he got Jiraiya because he didn't know much Japanese at the time, I believe. And he learned as the series was going on. But it was so funny just to hear him like randomly speak in English. I don't know why it was so funny to me, but it was funny. I think it's because like social awkwardness, and barriers and stuff. Which one of my notes is actually he's just like us watching Japanese niche television to learn Japanese. Um Not that I'm sure people do that. Again, I'm learning Japanese, but I'm not necessarily using Super Sentai to learn Japanese. Um Also, that's from the same episode 9. I love how he fought the yokai unmorphed. It was really, really cool to see him do his own stunts. Or I think he did his own stunts. I'm assuming he did his own stunts. Um, I love when he had a mini tantrum in episode 16. I don't even remember what this tantrum was. It was probably like, I think, was that the episode where they got stuck in the forest and then they had to keep going and they didn't want to? Probably. I don't know. It was funny. Um, he was good with kids, which we knew about. Because he, going back to what I was saying earlier about the trope with the good monsters, um, he was closest with that yokai, the nice yokai kid, who I don't have his name. Okay, I don't have, for some reason, his, the yokai's name. I mean, at least not under the Jiraiya notes. It's fine. Um, but he was the most affected by that, so I think that was why he was so determined to defeat Junior. I think it was Junior who destroyed him. Wow, I'm doing great. Um, but yeah, and I cannot talk about Jiraiya without the elephant in the room. His scroll quest in part 2. It was so cool that, for starters, we got his actual father to play his. I think he played not his dad, but like his mentor. Yeah, his mentor, who ended up being a yokai, I believe. Methinks? I don't know. Um, his story was very like emotional. And it was really, really good. Like, I would say his scroll quest was my favorite, next to maybe Sihime. And I also think he was the only one who got 2 parts, if I'm not mistaken. Because he's that bitch. A lot of cursing in this episode. I've only cursed twice, but still. Um, but yeah, overall, Jiraiya is really great. I think it's so funny also in the 30 Years After movie that he's the only one who is still in shape, which of course he is. He's that bitch. He's a beast. When it comes to his actor Kane, I really want to interview him someday, because I really want to know, like, the behind the scenes of Kakuranger. And I mean, I've watched what's his name? Sasuke, not Sasuke, Sosuke's. I can't remember his actor's name off the top of my head. I've watched his YouTube channel and I've watched a little bit of the interview he did with Sasuke's actor. But still, it would be really interesting to see from another person's perspective, and especially since, he does know English, and at first he only knew English, I think. So I would love to just know about that process. But anyways, let's move on to the top 2. At number 2, from Jetman, we have Guy. And I sense that the Super Sentai mob is coming after me. Okay, let me get this straight. I love Guy. Guy's the best Jetman in the series. Like, duh, he's the best ranger out there. And he is one of the greatest Black Rangers of all time. He is great. He had a great character progression. He truly cares about his friends. He is in love with Ryu. I mean, Curry. I mean, Ryu. I don't know if you've heard that whisper. Um, he is great. And I do really like him as a character. He was amazing. And he would probably have been number 1 if it wasn't for one thing. Him dying. And when I say when he dies, like, again, I knew he was gonna die. I saw Gokaiger before I saw Jetman, so I already knew Guy's fate. It's not necessarily because he dies. It's because he dies 3 times before he actually dies. And I'm sorry, but like, kill him once, shame on you. Kill him twice, shame on me. Kill him 3 times. I don't know where I was going with that. The point is that it kind of lost its effect, and I mean, after a while, I was kind of just like, I don't really care if he lives. I'm sorry, I don't. Like, I wish he lived, but he died 3 times before. It just was not that interesting that he died. I thought it was maybe a lazy choice. It also makes it so we couldn't have a Jetman reunion. Because, I mean, even though his actor is still alive, and to my knowledge, well, you really can't do a Jetman reunion and bring back 4 of the 5 Rangers, if you know what I mean. And I honestly don't think they would do a reunion anyways, even if he was not killed. But, you know, a girl can dream. Even though I wasn't that crazy about Jetman. Well, I have a complicated relationship with Jetman. Anyways, let's move on to number 1, but because we know who number 1 is, I'm gonna keep it somewhat brief. And at number 1, from Zyuohger, we have Misao. Yay, get to talk about Michan again! But I am going to keep this brief because, as you guys know, I already talked about Misao in my favorite Super Sentai 6 Rangers. So if you guys want to know more about my opinions on Misao, you can go check out the 6 Ranger video. Spoiler alert, he is kind of far into the video because he's very high on that list as well. But yeah, he's number 1 because I really like him and I relate to him so much as a character. And I did decide to put him in this list because I wasn't originally going to do a 6 Ranger list. Or, I don't know. It's one of those, like, I don't know why I included him. So, if you want to be technical and not include him, then yes, Guy is number 1. But I'm including him, so he's number 1 in my book. And you guys have to deal with it. But yeah, that being said, that is all for this video. It was way longer than I thought it was going to be. If you guys enjoyed it, please give a like and comment down below your favorite Black Super Sentai Ranger. And I'm going to try so hard to upload the next video as quickly as possible. Maybe I'll even start recording it now. But yeah, I love you guys, and if you guys want to follow me on Instagram at Lilies_RangerWorld, if I'm not on here, I'm definitely on there, yapping away. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!